Zoya, we're going to go to you now, and I do have a couple of slides I will be bringing up for your presentation. But what you're going to be talking about over the next couple of minutes here is actually how to unionize. Is that the way you say it, or how to start a union? Zoya, go ahead.
Either way works. And you and Case Study QB already have touched on some of the things I wanted to discuss today. First, I wanted to start with a quote from UGB Debs saying, years ago, I recognized my kinship with all living things, and I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. While there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there's a soul in prison, I am not free. And UG Debs led a labor union and major victories after working with several smaller unions, including the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen. Debs led his union in a major 10-month strike against the CB&Q Railroad in 1888. Debs was instrumental in the founding of the American Railway Union, one of the nation's first industrial unions. And I wanted to contrast that with your segment on Bernie, because we used to have real strong labor leaders in this country. And to that point, which you brushed on, it is, of course, impossible to cover every win and influence the labor movement has had in the United States. But if you're watching this on your day off, obviously, because it's Saturday, or at the end of an 8-hour shift, it's thanks to countless sacrifices of labor organizers of decades past who fought to make such expectations at any given job commonplace. The steps to form a union are part of a century-spanning worldwide effort to build solidarity, provide just compensation, and recognize the dignity of workers. In North America, some scholars date the movement back to 1648, when shoemaker and barrel maker guilds were legally recognized by the city of Boston under British rule. The earliest recorded strike took place in 1768, when journeyman tailors in New York took action to fight a wage reduction. Keep in mind that slaves who threw down tools or rebelled, effectively withholding otherwise forced labor on southern plantations, are just as much a part of the story of U.S. labor struggles as are the iconic sit-in strikers at General Motor plants in the 1930s. The early days and the wins we take for granted before the National Labor Relations Act of 1935 was signed into law, or the enactment of any subsequent federal safeguards, unionization regulations and worker protections or completely non-existent across states. The Knights of Labor and American Federation of Labor were some of the most significant early labor organizations at the national stage, calling for dignified wages and 8-hour workdays. Without legal protections like we're supposed to have today, their efforts were often met with state-sanctioned violence. At the turn of the 19th century, as these groups and others began to secure wins in states across the U.S., broader struggles for human rights began to take shape among women, children, immigrants, and the marginalized, which continue to today. And I just wanted to touch upon all of that to show how all of our struggles are related. And labor is one of our sharpest tools in our toolbox to force the bourgeoisie to meet our demands. So with that, we can start the slides.
Okay, and I didn't get a chance to respond to you in the text, but yes, I do have them in order. Now, do you want the slides? Because the first thing you sent was a link, which is what you see. I don't know if you can see this on screen, but it says how we won our union and why collective action is needed at non-profits.
We can go to the screenshots. Okay. This is just an article that's talking about something that's going to be mentioned in the screenshots.
Gotcha. Okay, so then let's go right to the screenshots, and those are right here. All right, the first one is here.
Yes, so this is an organization called UNIT. And on this screenshot, it's just the welcoming to the organization itself. Um, and this is an organization I recommend, but there's many like it out there, and you can always choose your own, of course. So briefly, what it says here is, welcome to UNIT. Let's get started. A union is a group of co-workers who come together to advocate for themselves in their workplace. By organizing together, you are already a union. However, getting your union legally recognized confers additional protections and benefits. UNIT is here to help you get your union legally recognized and negotiate a contract with your employer. And we can go to the next screenshot. And that's from the article that you were showing. This is PEN America United, and they used UNIT to form their union at their workplace. So it's one of their success stories. And we can go to the next screenshot of what UNIT does for workers, which this is just a little breakdown of talking to workers during union organizing, fighting back, how to win against an anti-union boss, and lastly, knowing your rights, unpacking your legal rights to organize, which are probably some of the biggest hurdles for people who are organizing. And then we can go to the next one.
Okay. The next one is here, I believe. There we go.
So this now gets into the details. And again, I'm just going to give you an overview, but you guys could Google UNIT, unionizing, and there's a lot of free resources. You don't have to sign up for anything, which is why I love to recommend this website. They have articles, they have classes, workshops. They have so many resources. So if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed by any of this, just go to their website and use the tools that they offer us. So preparing for your employer's response. Management has a vested stake in maintaining the status quo. This resistance can take drastically different forms, from legal anti-union policies to illegal attempts to intimidate and retaliate. The thought of an organized workforce is so threatening that companies collectively pay a whopping $340 million a year in hiring anti-union consultants. Union art. Yeah, right. Familiarizing yourself with common anti-union arguments and tactics will help you prepare in case your employer is against having an organized and empowered workforce. The UNIT team can provide legal advice and support at any time. Remember, your union strength comes from sticking together. Next slide.
And there you go.
Making decisions as a group. As you build your union, you'll need to make many decisions. Who should be union leadership? How much dues should we collect? What issues should we prioritize in our contract negotiations? And this is all something that you have to learn to discuss with your peers and coworkers and act upon democratically as you continue to form your union. Next slide.
Wait, let me make sure I'm on the right slide. I thought I had them in order. Making decisions as a group, and then prepare. Which one should we? Which one should we be on now? Because I had this one up. Go ahead.
We should be on building a union starts with good conversations.
Okay, so I was right. For some reason, I thought I was off. Okay, so then I was on the right track. Okay, go ahead.
The most important step you can take to make your union drive successful is to have one-on-one conversations with coworkers, understand their workplace concerns, and assess their support for organizing as a way to address those concerns. And Case Study really did a good job of getting into how you formulate those questions and keeping them open-ended and addressing your coworkers' concerns. Next.
Next one. Who controls your union? Go ahead.
Exactly. You do. Unions are small d democratic. They are self run, self funded, and self organized. Whether you vote to affiliate with a national union or use unit software advisors to run your union independently, your members retain decision making power. Your union is the membership. No one else, not staff, not consultants, not politicians, and the membership is you. Next
And
is mapping your workplace.
yes,
A
there we
success
go.
A successful organizing campaign requires a good understanding of who all the workers in your workplace are, what they are concerned about, how they feel about unionizing. As you map your workplace and have one-on-one conversations with coworkers, you should record your coworkers' names, their contact information, and their support for unionizing in the coworkers list. This will help you keep track of who you need to talk to and allow you to invite union supportive coworkers to join. Maintaining this list will also help your union decide, with advice from the union advisors, when you are ready to call for an NLRB election.
Next slide.
And this is just a list of some of the gains that we've made thanks to unions, the National Labor Relations Act, Social Security, Fair Labor Standards, Equal Pay Act, and the Civil Rights Act. And this was not exclusively done by unions, but these are gains that we've made through union organizing. And lastly, what I wanted to share is a link, which I'm going to send you right now, CJ.
I thought you sent me one. The Union 101. How do I that one or a different one?
The Unions 101, how do I form one?
Yes.
Yes, that one.
Okay, so let's bring that one on the screen here. 1 second, everybody. Goes here. All right, so Unions 101, how do I form one? You can continue.
A labor
Zoya, you cut out if you're talking. Yeah, I don't hear you. So I'll read until we get your audio back. Just shout whenever you're ready. So let's continue here. How Unions 101, how do I form one? A labor union is an organization of workers who collectively negotiate the terms of their employment and improve working conditions. The goal of a union is to create a formal mechanism to protect and advocate for workers' needs and interests. Articles in this section break down what a union does, how to form one, and the whys and how of the whys and hows of the help that they can bring to workers in both the short and long term. So let's read a little bit on this, and then we're gonna get to the how-to part because it doesn't look like this is the how-to part yet. And Zoya is gonna be joining us again when she fixes her audio. So, the union difference, advantages of having a labor union. When unions work well, they better the lives of their members. When a union is won, they guarantee a legal right to bargain with your boss, have historically brought about better wages, benefits, and protections, center support and care for you and your workers when managerial decisions get made, and mean the next generation of workers have a chance at better standards. And then let's move to this next one here. This bullet point: unionize your workplace in 5 steps. No single article can cover the entirety of the process, but for a bird's eye view, there are 5 steps to unionizing. Hang on a second here, just in case she's back here. I put you back in. Let me know whenever.
Yes, I'm here with you.
Okay.
Thank you for picking it
Okay,
up
there you go.
for me, CJ.
I didn't know if you
So
were you just gonna read this, or you were gonna, is there a particular part you want me to scroll to?
I don't know when it cut off, but I was focusing on those 5 steps to organizing the union.
Okay, yeah, yeah. We didn't hear ever since I brought up the article. Didn't hear anything, but I read this part here, and now we're at the unionize your workplace in 5 steps. So we can start there if you like. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the most important things are: one, research; two, build a united front; three, collect authorized signatures; four, win recognition; five, contract negotiations. And to learn more about each of these steps, which we could do an independent show on, you can go to unitworkers.com and tap into this resource and many others. Of course, research is the least glamorous part of organizing or forming a union,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, our modern circumstances have forced us to all become miniature legal experts, and it's just what we have to do. Paperwork may not be the most exciting aspect, but keeping on top of it is essential. Under the Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act, LMRDA of 1959, the federal government set standards of transparency that recognize private sector and U.S. postal unions must follow, both in terms of information sharing among members and between a labor organization and the Department of Labor. Now, all of that is a lot of words to basically say that there's federal guidelines, and then there's city guidelines and state guidelines that your union must follow. And I'm going to post a link later in our chat for the standards of the labor management um, office. But that's pretty much the bird's eye view of what I could fit into this summit. And as you see in what Case Study QB said, in what these articles say, the most important part of union organizing starts with you talking to your coworkers, identifying what are their priorities, um, forming a workplace map, seeing where everybody is, taking the temperature, getting the contact information, and really you're forming solidarity and community in your organization. And management has solidarity against you, but your labor is what makes it possible for the company to run. So if you guys organize, there's nothing that you technically can't extract from your bosses simply by striking, simply by withholding your labor, and by following these steps. And you can even do strikes that aren't authorized, as case study QB covered, because we are seeing a lot of betrayal from union leadership to the rank and file. And these legalities and resources are also important to know for people who feel like they're not being represented, so they have a way to counteract what the leadership in the union is doing.
Absolutely. And how did you find this information? Because I'm trying to look at the from the point of view of a person that's not, you don't have years of experience in this type of work. They can just a simple Google search of how to start union or how to start a union. Is that how you got this information, or did you have to do like a lot of
Oh,
research?
well, I was in a union myself already decades ago, so unfortunately, I kind of knew this stuff before the internet even had this wealth of knowledge available. Um, but we are here now. You can absolutely just Google how to unionize. You can go to unitworkers.com, which is an incredible resource because they give so much information for free and without requesting anything from you. And in general, try to attend strikes, which there have been 3,000 in the last 3 years. Our media doesn't cover it enough, but 3,000 strikes in the last 3 years. Go to one of the strikes and connect with union people. That is the best way to learn, I found, because they have experience that you're not going to find online or in a Google Doc. And expertise is always valuable. And you can show up, support the striking workers. Like right now, there's hotel workers striking, there's the writers
Mm-hmm.
strike. There's always strikes going on, and if you're in the vicinity, you can attend and connect with people who are already doing it. If not, then this website is a good resource.
Yes, and great information in this segment. There is one other video I want to play before we close out this segment, Zoya. And we've been talking about UPS a lot because that's the one where the vote is actually about to happen, or most recently. But what I do want to show is some of the conditions that still has not been resolved, or some of the things with the UPS tentative contract that still has not been resolved, Zoya. One of which is, because we noticed when we read in both of those articles, they said, oh, we won air conditioners and trucks. That's just new trucks. Only new trucks in this new tentative agreement will they have air conditioning. So let's talk about the extreme heat and how it is to work as a UPS driver in these older trucks where there's no air conditioning. And I do want to show that before we our next segment and our next guest come in and take over in a few minutes here. Watch this video here.
We're learning more about that alarming video of a UPS guy in distress from the extreme heat.
UPS drivers call these trucks the box. Outside, we're registering 95 degrees, but inside, we're approaching 120.
UPS driver died in California. UPS driver died in Texas. This is us too. Like, people see the package car. He's probably just in there sorting. Well, guess what? He could be passed out back there.
In the midst of record heat waves, UPS drivers are on the front lines, working 10, 12, even 14-hour days with no relief. But there's a simple solution, a technology that's been around for almost a century that would save lives.
Any normal citizen on a hot summer day, when you step in your car, the first thing you do is turn on your car and turn your AC on. You do that for a reason.
But UPS refuses to pay for it, even as they're raking in record profits, even though it would cost them next to nothing.
FedEx and Amazon put air conditioning in their delivery vehicles. UPS, the #1 shipper in the world, does not. And we are dying without it.
So we talked to UPS drivers in Florida, Texas, and New York about what it feels like to spend your days trapped in the box and how they're fighting for access to AC.
People, having heat strokes in the desert or dying from heat exhaustion in the desert. I never really understood that or comprehended that, when watching movies, but working in the conditions that we work in on a daily basis, it's pretty astonishing how quick your body can collapse and shut down. I've had a digital thermometer in the back of my cargo area, and I've seen it reach north of 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
There's no ventilation in that cargo area. You're opening like the tube. The heat in there is stale. The faucet of sweat is literally dripping down your face. The shelves are made out of steel. So if I'm grabbing a package off the shelf, I'm going to get burned here. I'm going to get burned here. Hot. So hot that we joke that we could scramble eggs on the shelf.
Even on the hottest summer days, UPS forces drivers to work long hours at a dangerous pace.
UPS is very performance-based. Let's go. This
is what I took from that video. They indoctrinate you so much that this kid got up after fainting from the heat and rang the customer's bell. Because that's what they want.
There's a direct correlation between performance and how fast you do the job and us passing out from heat stroke.
In 2018, I was on the verge of a heat stroke. By the time I got to the ER, I couldn't speak to my wife, form a normal sentence, and was in and out of consciousness.
Talk to enough drivers and you'll find that these stories are extremely common.
In my 25 years at UPS, I can say there's a countless number of drivers who have been hospitalized for dehydration.
I know of about 5 to 7 drivers in the last 2 weeks that have gone to the ER for heat exhaustion.
Between 2015 and 2019, at least 107 UPS workers were hospitalized for heat-related illnesses. But those are just the incidents that are reported.
Several, co-workers of mine that are new drivers call in heat exhaustion, fatigue, and it's swept under the rug. They brought them in. They'll sit them down in the office, not administer medical attention, so the company doesn't get hit with a injury. The next day, 2-3 days later, you see that same driver cramping up in his vehicle, throwing up on the side of the road, and ultimately ending up in the ER.
And the drivers who get to that stage, they're instructed to call management before calling 911.
That's a standard operating procedure for UPS drivers. I know for a fact it significantly delayed my medical attention.
They were told not to call 911. They're told not to report it to OSHA. So you have a lot of unreported cases, and that's why, because UPS doesn't want those reported stories.
That's Teresa Clank, a registered nurse whose husband nearly died while working for UPS in 2016.
When my husband almost died and I saw the tears in his eyes, I said enough is enough, and I started the petition.
That petition called on UPS to provide air conditioning to all of their drivers. It now has over 1 million signatures, but UPS hasn't listened. Instead, the company points to its Cool Solutions program, designed to offer drivers tips and tricks for managing extreme heat.
These trainings are probably, a minute long. Remember, we're training in the heat. There's no AC ever available to us. So we just hit enter, enter, enter. We don't care if we get the questions right. We got to keep it moving.
UPS encourages drivers to take measures like finding shade, eating watermelon, and drinking water. But that assumes they have access to water.
Here in Texas, at least in our area, in our local, in my building, we have not been provided water for at least 2 to 3 years.
They give us water, but that just happened recently. They have been giving us water and ice for about the last 5 to 7 years. So we always wonder who died. And I know that sounds cold because people are dying.
Esteban Chavez had just turned 24 years old the day before he collapsed while on the job.
A driver died recently in California. That was Esteban. And UPS didn't even mention it the next morning. Because what happens when you mention it? You have to accept some sort of responsibility there.
It's a pain that's never going to go away. This could bring awareness to his line of work, to the other drivers that are out there.
We are the voices of Chavez. We are the voices of those who have lost their lives while in the back of the vehicle from a heat stroke, heat exhaustion. And we tell United Postal Service that we are sick and tired, and enough is enough of them putting profit over people.
Instead of protecting drivers, UPS enriched wealthy shareholders through $5 billion in stock buybacks.
UPS made $24 billion in revenue last quarter. They can easily afford to put AC in those package cars.
UPS saves only $185 upfront by removing AC from vehicles. The company claims that adding air conditioning to vehicles would be impractical, given the frequent number of stops that drivers are forced to make.
It's not that it's not practical, it's that they don't want to spend the money. That's less money that goes into their shareholders' pockets.
All of our competitors offer air conditioning to their employees who do their deliveries. This is not groundbreaking innovation here.
You got air conditioner in there?
Yeah, we're gonna turn that fan on wide open right there.
That's your air conditioner?
This is
Look
all
at that
My
nonsense.
response to Carol Tomei, the CEO of UPS, is come out with us. Get your brown uniform on. We are not exaggerating. Feel it for yourself, and then maybe there will be some compassion there.
UPS has yet to show such signs of compassion, but within the next year, they may be forced to change their mind. On August 1st, 2023, the current contract for the Teamsters at UPS is set to expire. So Teamsters are gearing up for a standoff with the company, and their demands for air conditioning are likely to be at the center.
The Teamsters Union has been staging a series of protests across the country for UPS drivers.
With the upcoming contract negotiations, air conditioning is going to be a huge topic. I think we're fortunate in that we have new union leadership.
365 days.
So I can stop it here. It is not fortunate that they have this guy, Sean O'Brien, because he has been shown to be a sellout. He's the one that's trying to sell this current TA, which does not cover air conditioning in existing trucks. It only covers air conditioning in new trucks. So you're literally talking about less than 10% of trucks that's going to have it. So that's going to end it for our segment here. We're going to be moving to the next segment in with JB called Disabled Workers Panel. Zoya, I want to thank you for joining us for this particular section on how to start a union in your workplace. Any final words before we pass it to JB? And I see Michelle in the background also.
Yes, in light of the video you just showed, I wanted to say that in 2020, 340 workers died each day from hazardous working conditions. That's 124,100 people. And 120,000 workers died from occupational diseases. And on top of that, there was 3.2 million work-related injuries. So the statistics go on, and it just emphasizes the need to have some kind of worker protections in place. So for where we stand now, as corrupt as union leadership is, it's still better for you to form a union than to be without one. And we have to get these unions in place to form that solidarity to move in the direction of a general strike. Because what we need is systemic change. And the way to leverage our labor to have that systemic change is ultimately a general strike. But these are the building blocks that will lead us there. So please, be patient, put in the energy, and unite with your fellow workers, because our solidarity is the biggest threat to their power.